Bitcoin. I learned about Bitcoin first when I saw the videos at Khan Academy. It was quite accidental, and I started watching the videos there and try to understand the Bitcoin as a technology, how it works. Interestingly, the more and more I learned about Bitcoin and I understood the underlying technology that runs behind Bitcoin, I became more interested. And it was quite fascinating when I first read the Bitcoin white paper. The Bitcoin white paper was written by Satoshi Nakamoto. Satoshi Nakamoto is an anonymous name. Nobody knows who he really is. And he wrote this paper that about electronic cash, peer-to-peer electronic cash system, which is actually Bitcoin. And we'll go through that paper because the first time I learned about Bitcoin is actually reading through the paper. Nowadays, if you search Bitcoin in Google or if you go to the libraries, you will find a lot of books about Bitcoin, and they will. There are quite a few good books, and uh, which talk about how Bitcoin works, and they're quite elaborative. But the people who um, started developing in Bitcoin sectors actually, I think most of them actually learned Bitcoin firstly reading the white paper. So I recommend everyone who are interested to learn Bitcoin instead of course, you can rely on any other resources. Like there are, as I said, I went through the Khan Academy videos, or you can also take courses that has been organized, that is being organized by Princeton, some group of students and teachers. But I recommend strongly, if you really want to learn about Bitcoin, please read the paper written by Satoshi Nakamoto. So I decided to create some videos about Bitcoin and try to explore and to explore different aspects of Bitcoin technology and share my knowledge and ideas about Bitcoin, what I learned throughout the months. So, Bitcoin, as I already mentioned, is a new kind of money, and if it really succeeds, and if more and more people um, use Bitcoin, then it can actually revolutionize the way um, we purchase and sell products and the way the finance works in our world. So let's go to the Google. So as I say, there are lots of resources nowadays about Bitcoin. So if I write Bitcoin in Google, you can see the Google's PageRank algorithm gives the most relevant news about Bitcoin, and definitely the Bitcoin organization website comes uh, at first. And you can see this is the bitcoin.org website, and I was actually involved in the translation of this website for a while when I was in Japan. So you can see there's a very popular videos. I think it kind of summarizes how Bitcoin works. So let's watch the video first.
What is Bitcoin? Bitcoin is the first decentralized digital currency. Bitcoins are digital coins you can send through the internet. Compared to other alternatives, Bitcoins have a number of advantages. Bitcoins are transferred directly from person to person via the net, without going through a bank or clearinghouse. This means that the fees are much lower. You can use them in every country. Your account cannot be frozen, and there are no prerequisites or arbitrary limits. Let's look at how it works. Several currency exchanges exist where you can buy and sell bitcoins for dollars, euros, and more. Your bitcoins are kept in your digital wallet on your computer or mobile device. Sending bitcoins is as simple as sending an email, and you can purchase anything with Bitcoin. The Bitcoin network is secured by individuals called miners. Miners are rewarded newly generated bitcoins for verifying transactions. After transactions are verified, they are recorded in a transparent public ledger. Bitcoin opens up a whole new platform for innovation. The software is completely open source and anyone can review the code. Bitcoin is changing finance the same way the web changed publishing. When everyone has access to a global market, great ideas flourish. Bitcoins are a great way for businesses to minimize transaction fees. It doesn't cost anything to start accepting them, and it's easy to set up. There are no chargebacks, and you'll get additional business from the Bitcoin economy. For more information about Bitcoin, visit weusecoins.com.
So we just saw the video and you already heard lots of new words like Bitcoin block, Bitcoin transactions, ledger, blockchain, and gradually we'll touch those topics. What do they mean by that? And people who don't really want to learn how Bitcoin works, like the technology underlying the Bitcoin and the protocols there, probably you are only interested about how you can buy Bitcoin or how you can make profits, or how you can send money, or people, somebody who live very far uh, from their own country like me may wonder how you can send money very efficiently, very quickly, and with very low transaction fee, and you can do it with Bitcoin, provided that the place you are sending Bitcoin, there are some entities there who accept Bitcoin and can convert Bitcoin into the currency that you really want to send to your family. So this bitcoin.org website, you can have lots of information there. There are information about individuals, there are information about businesses, developers, and if you go to the getting started, there you can have lots of information how you can get Bitcoin and how you can spend Bitcoin. You can actually find lots of places where you can spend Bitcoin. You can buy pizza actually. You can also travel. You can buy flight tickets with Bitcoin, and day by day lots of use cases are coming forth uh, where you can use your Bitcoin. So firstly, as everybody has a wallet, means like you have dollars or you have other currencies in your, if you have your national currency and you have your money bag, and your money bag is the wallet. So the first question is, so if Bitcoin is a new kind of money, where do you store them? So they are they are digital money, and normally they don't have physical existence, though there are exceptions with paper paper money nowadays, which is actually attached to the Bitcoin, but still Bitcoin doesn't have actually physical existence. The first thing to wonder is where do you store your Bitcoin? And actually, there are wallet software which actually keeps track of your Bitcoin, how much Bitcoin you own, or how much Bitcoin you want to send, or how much Bitcoin you have sent, or how much Bitcoin you have received. So there are official Bitcoin wallet. At the same time, there are alternative Bitcoin wallets, and different Bitcoin wallets have different features, and we'll talk about those wallets and different recommendations by different people who have been using Bitcoin uh, in different ways. So there are other resources, community, documentation, development, and this is very cool. You can actually go to the vocabulary. So as you have seen the video and you came across with lots of new vocabularies, and though the information here is not very detailed, um, to get detailed information, there's another website called Bitcoin Wiki. Um, so if you open the Bitcoin Wiki, and so this is the Wikipedia page of the Bitcoin. On the other hand, there's en.bitcoin.it. This is the Bitcoin Wiki, and here you can actually have detailed information and and clarification of lots of misconceptions about Bitcoin. But for the beginner, I will I recommend reading this because they are precise, they are concise, and easy to understand. So, uh, as in the beginning, I say that I strongly recommend reading the Bitcoin white paper, from where I actually learned Bitcoin properly. Though there are different opinions that for a beginner who don't have any experience of reading any scientific paper, or someone who don't have computer science background, it may be difficult to understand by reading the by solely reading that paper. But as I really liked that paper, and I really believe that that's the source of the that's the starting point where Bitcoin came into existence in our world. I will start from that paper. Okay, so this historic paper that's written by Satoshi Nakamoto, and you see the email account there. Uh, I don't know whether someone still use that account, and it's of course it's definitely under the under the authority of Satoshi Nakamoto, and I don't think he still uses his ID or his email address. However, so today we'll go through the abstract of that paper, and by reading that abstract, you will understand what what's the novelty in Bitcoin actually. So you can see it's a purely peer-to-peer version of electronic cash. So what's peer-to-peer? Peer-to-peer means that you can send Bitcoin peer-to-peer using P2P technology. So the P2P network is being used in Bitcoin. So Bitcoin relies on the P2P network. And using that P2P network, I think everybody nowadays has uh, experience of downloading movies sometimes, though somewhere it's illegal, using P2P services like using BitTorrent websites or softwares. So that same P2P network is actually working in Bitcoin. So the main objective, what's the main objective? The main objective is to send, the main objective is to send money, right? The main objective is to send money to your peer. So as you can see, so Bitcoin actually allows direct transfer, direct transfer. So Bitcoin allows direct transfer from one party to another party. So this classical example, so for example, this is Alice and this is Bob here. So Bob has spiky hair, and so Alice wants to send money to Bob. So you can nowadays have bank accounts. You have banks, and Alice has a bank account, and Bob also has a bank account, and they can use the electronic service provided by bank and online banking service to send money to Bob. So this is Alice and this is Bob. But the problem here is you are relying on somebody else. So you have your money and you are relying on a third party to send that money to somebody else, and in fact your most of your money is not with you. Okay, previously ancient days, people had their money in their home in some cold storage or somewhere somewhere underneath the earth. But nowadays we trust the banks to save our money. So the problem here, somebody, and it's a problem. You may not, you may not actually think it as a problem, but if you think about the recent financial crisis, that how the banks are dealing our money, and then probably you may start thinking about it as a problem. However, uh, that means most of the systems that we currently have to send money to somebody else, actually you are relying on somebody else to send your money. So Bitcoin brings this new way where you don't need to rely any third party to send your money. That means Bitcoin removes the necessity of third party, necessity of a third party. So no third party. No third party. Okay, if you then um, read in the paper, you'll see that digital signatures provide part of the solution. For example, there are other ways of sending money. Nowadays, PayPal is very popular and you can send money to someone living in the other part of the world from where you are living. And when you are sending somebody through a PayPal account, you are basically signing a digital check, right? So there is a digital signature of you, and you are saying that, okay, here is my $10, or here is my $10,000, or here is my $1 million. I'm sending this money to somebody else, and I am giving this digital signature and as a proof. Okay, so though these digital signatures provide part of the solution, but still you are relying on PayPal. Okay, so that means you are relying on a trusted third party. So Bitcoin proposes a solution to the double spending problem. So in the first, why do we need uh, the third party? Of course, they are providing you service. Okay. On the other hand, they are also doing a very important thing. They are maintaining a ledger book. They are maintaining ledger. So every transaction that's happening, they are registering the history of that transaction, right? So what happens if that history doesn't exist, or if nobody registers that history? What's the problem with that? The problem is, if there's no history, then the same coin can be spent twice. If some bad people can actually send, so think about, like, here is Alice and here is Bob and here is John, and Alice has, for example, Alice has $50 in his bank, and the bank doesn't register or doesn't save any history. Then what Alice can do, Alice can write a check of $50 to Bob, and Alice can also write a check of $50 to John. Okay, but Alice only has $50. So it may happen that, okay, Alice is buying a mattress from Bob, and okay, he is writing a $50 check, and Bob goes to the bank and withdraws that $50 from Alice's account, and then Alice also writes for example, Alice buys some rice from John, and Alice writes another check of $50 and to John, and John sells rice to Alice. But if John goes to the bank now, he will find that there's no money in Alice's account. That means Alice has defrauded John. Okay, so before these before this purchase and sale happens between Alice and Bob or Alice and John, there is the necessity of verification, right? And the verification about how much money Alice actually holds in his account. Okay, so That is the important task that these third party, these trusted third party are doing. Okay, and Bitcoin comes with this new way that you can still do this verification. You can still do this verification, but you won't need any third party. Okay, so we'll gradually go through how Bitcoin does it. Okay, so Bitcoin also maintains in Bitcoin we also have a public ledger. We have public ledger, and it is a decentralized ledger. So this decentralized nature is actually eliminating the need of the third party, the trusted third party. Okay, and in the video you also saw the Bitcoin. You also heard the word Bitcoin mining. Okay, so to create this public ledger, to 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 extend this public ledger, to add new transaction history to the public ledger, a kind of hash based proof work is needed. So Bitcoin has this public ledger which is actually a blockchain. So um, so when you're if somebody is hearing for the first time, you may not understand, but gradually I will explain in the future videos. But just to have the idea, so by the public ledger of Bitcoin, what it actually is, so you have these blocks. These are blocks. Okay, so every 10 minute on average, every 10 minute one block gets generated. Okay, and this block generation process started from 2009 and it's still going on. Okay, that means we have this chain of blocks. Okay, we have this chain of blocks. We have this chain of blocks. So there's a good analogy actually. So you can think of a book. You can think of a book. You can think of a book. So you can think of this whole public ledger as a book where the page of this book is continuously increasing. Okay, every 10 minutes a new page is going to be added to this book. Okay, that means every page of this book corresponds to a block. Okay, so every 10 minutes you are getting a new page. Okay, you are getting a new page. And what's inside this page? Okay, what's inside this page? So for example, if Alice sends Bitcoin to Bob, this transaction history is going to be stored in this page. So briefly, and an easy explanation, the fundamental building block of of Bitcoin is, firstly you have Bitcoin and then when you are sending this Bitcoin, then you are creating a transaction, okay, and this transaction is going to be written inside a block, okay, and this block is going to be stored stored and is going to be chained in the blockchain, okay. So Bitcoin transaction block, so I should write this is Bitcoin BTC transaction and block, and then chain of this same kind of blocks. So you have chain of blocks, so that is called blockchain. That is called blockchain. So these distributed. So why distributed? Distributed means, so by this word, by the word distribution means these public ledger, which is open to everybody, is distributed everywhere in the internet. Anybody can get this public ledger, okay. So this distributed public ledger is eliminating the need of trusted third party, okay. And I haven't mentioned, so there's another important concept is Bitcoin mining. So this transaction, when it gets stored in this block, there you need to complete some difficult mathematical task. You can think of that you'll have to do some mathematical puzzle, okay. You'll have to do some mathematical puzzle to store this transaction in the block. So when you are solving that mathematical puzzle, and as a reward of solving that puzzle, you will be rewarded Bitcoin, okay. So Bitcoin as a reward, okay. Bitcoin as a reward, and your your activity of of solving that puzzle is called Bitcoin mining. So Bitcoin miners solve hard puzzle to create Bitcoin block, okay. So this hard work, this Bitcoin mining hard work, is also called a proof of work, okay. I mean, it's not directly called a proof of work. I mean, that means to behind the creation of of a single block, there is a proof of work, okay. So when we'll expand our when we'll expand more about this blockchain and this mining process, we'll know more about how um, this proof of work, what this proof of work really is, okay. So in this abstract you can see that the network timestamps transactions by hashing them into an ongoing chain of hash-based proof of work. That is this blockchain, okay? That is the blockchain I was mentioning, forming a record that cannot be changed without redoing the proof of work, okay? So there's a you can actually change you can actually change the record, but you will have to redo the work. And I think recently you may have heard about 50% attack, or the vulnerability of Bitcoin network. So this is actually linked to these two words, that linked to this word redoing. Okay, so Bitcoin, if you okay, let's read the next sentences. So the longest chain not only serves as a proof of the sequence of events witnessed, but proof that it came from the largest pool of CPU power. So what happens here actually, that I was talking about this Bitcoin blockchain. So for example, this is a blockchain, okay? So for example, we are right now in this position, okay? So this next 10 minutes a new block is going to be generated, okay? So the thing is, we at this moment, so we start from that moment. At this moment, the uh, Bitcoin miners are trying to create new blocks. Bitcoin miners are trying to create new blocks, okay? So you can of think of so actually in the network you can actually have multiple chains, okay? So you can basically have multiple chains. So we'll elaborate this later. So we can actually have multiple chains, okay? Multiple chains. But but the network but the network and most of the users will always choose the longest chain, okay? The longest chain not only serves as the proof of sequence, right? So the longest chain means that to create the longest chain, behind the creation of this longest chain, the proof of work, the amount of proof of work is more than the amount of proof of work in this chain, okay? The longer a chain is, the more work is behind that chain, right? So that's why it will rely on the longest chain. And so we were talking about this redoing, okay? So if you have enough power, if you have enough computational power, and if you can create an even longer chain, then you can actually change the record. But it's very unlikely, okay? No single entity uh, can no single entity I mean, a single entity is very unlikely to gather that much of computational power. There are lots of debate about that, and if you're interested, you can read about 50% attack. Okay, so we already touched a lot of topic that eventually in the next videos I will uh, simplify, and I think I'm trying to give a summary of what's happening in the Bitcoin, but I think I already might have confused you. with uh, lots of difficult concepts or lots of new words. So we are almost uh, close to finish the abstract. That was my goal. I wanted to finish the abstract. So, as what I said, as long as a majority of CPU power is controlled by nodes that are not cooperating to attack the network, they'll generate the longest chain and outpace attackers. So Satoshi Nakamoto himself, um, during the creation of Bitcoin, was fully aware of the vulnerability of the network. That if majority of the people are dishonest, if some crazy scientist wants to disrupt this network, though it's very unlikely because most of the people, for their own interest and are going to protect the network. Uh, so the majority, so here there's an assumption that the majority will always be honest. Okay, so then in the last part of the abstract, you can see the network itself requires minimal structure. So messages are broadcast on a best effort basis, and nodes can leave and rejoin the network at will, accepting the longest proof of work chain as proof of what happened while they were gone. So you to participate in the network, you don't need to be online all the time. Okay, you can leave the network, and when you are again logging in, um, uh, then the Bitcoin client um, will will synchronize with the longest chain in the network, and it will be up to date then. Okay, so today we heard about different concepts in Bitcoin, the Bitcoin blocks, Bitcoin transactions, distributed nature, and no necessity of a third party, and Bitcoin mining. And in the next videos, we will learn uh, part by part, topic by topic, more and more about Bitcoin. So I wanted to show, so today I went through the paper, and it was kind of abstract, and you may be bored, but you can see here. So this is called blockchain.info, which actually has all the statistics about Bitcoin. So if you go to the charts section, you can actually see how many Bitcoins are in circulation. Okay, the market capitalization of the Bitcoin, the total transaction fees, number of transactions excluding popular addresses, number of unique Bitcoin addresses used, average number of transactions per block. So we'll go through all these quantities, all these measures. What does it mean by blockchain size, or your wallet transaction volume, or your wallet number of users? Okay, and you can see here these transactions are happening less than 1 minute. You can see so many people are using Bitcoins. Okay, so lots of news you can see, and this is another website that I started using very early, and you can see this is the first block. This is the generation block, the first block that has been created in the Bitcoin network. Okay, and there were only generation transaction, and we'll um, those go through that, what is a generation transaction, and what is a normal transaction, and what is the Bitcoin reward per block. Okay, and what are these hash, we will go through the cryptographic hashing function. Okay, so as I said, there are other resources, other very useful resources about Bitcoin, and I myself uh, learned about Bitcoin by Khan Academy Bitcoin video series. And if you are interested, and you should definitely watch these videos, and I will also describe somewhat in more details about different topics described here. And also there's recently a course launched by Princeton group, Princeton, some students and teachers uh, at Princeton. I will also recommend watching that. Thank you very much, and I will encourage you to know more about Bitcoin and use Bitcoin. Thank you.